So you want to know how to avoid the biggest mistake that athletes are making. It's a controversial topic. It's something that we see time and time again in professional sports, and it's something that can be avoided so easily with the right understanding of a revolutionary approach to training. Stick around.
What's up, everyone? Apparently I'm on. My name is Yanni Burmeister. If this is the first time you are rocking with the Team Unity, to my left, if you're catching the podcast, is none other than Phil White, Switched On Physio, and across the table is my brother Rad. Behind the switcher is Richie. Together we are Unity
keeps popping
Gym.
up on his selfie cam there.
And we are the gym that takes driven people and turns them into superhumans. Guys, if you want to know a little bit about how we do it, you can download all of our blueprints from the description of this stream or from our website, unitygym.com. How are you, Rad?
Pretty good. Yeah, looking forward to this week's shows. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So yeah, it's going to be good.
Awesome.
I'm feeling good about Richie being on the cam. I think it's about time people saw his
his sexy Calvin Klein.
his
glasses,
Calvin Klein look with his blue blocks.
That's right.
Yeah.
For those of you listening on the podcast, we've had a software update, and it's changed a couple of the commands, I think, or made it a bit glitchy. And so every time Richie changes something on the board, it flashes to his face to get the full experience. It's pretty good. Anyway, there's a great news story that unfolded over here in Australia. For those of you listening on in America, Canada, or anywhere else in the world, just play along for the sake of it, because I'll build some context around today's discussion. Very famous athlete in the NRL, Tom Tavoyevich.
That's the National Rugby League. That's our version of football or gridiron or whatever.
One of them,
yeah. We got a few. Phil's
AFL
an
fan
AFL fan over here. So we got 3 codes in Australia, but the one that I grew up with is Rugby League and or NRL. And Tommy is, they call him Turbo Tommy because he's so fast. He's such an amazing athlete, and he's really rise to the top of the NRL. He plays for my beloved team Manly, which is the local team for us here, really, and or the North Shore. And he's out from a hamstring injury. Now, the reason why this is interesting for us here at Unity and why I've paid a lot of attention to it is because in the off season he had a hamstring problem last week, and it's quite common in people who their main attribute is sprinting, explosive, and maybe Phil can fill us in a bit. Tommy is also quite a tall lad. He's 6'4", I think, or 6'5", and so he's got really long limbs, really long levers. He's generating a lot of force and power. So, structurally, he needs to be bulletproof to be able to do this. And what we're finding now is he's in his late 20s. He's running into really bad hamstring issues. He's out at the moment. Manly got their ass kicked on yesterday in their game. And really, the whole thing fell apart because the team has built around this guy's ability. What struck me, what got my attention was how they were talking about in the off-season they worked so hard to build his hamstring strength. And there's something really important in that, because I heard an interview with the guy's strength coach, and they were using a Nord board. I'm going to let Phil fill you in on what that is exactly, but it's similar to the Nordic hamstring curls.
It's basically trying to bring objective measures to a Nordic hamstring curl. So it's a way of measuring the force you're putting through each leg, so you can get a measurement of strength and force production.
They're really, really cool, but the movement is the Nordic hamstring curl, which we use here at Unity Gym. We have 3 variations of a Nordic hamstring curl that we use, and it's a great exercise, a phenomenal exercise at building strength when you combine that with things like Romanian deadlifts and back extensions and hammy curls. You can really bulletproof your hamstrings. But there wasn't one mention of flexibility training or mobility training or in-range strength development in his training protocol, and that really spiked my attention. And then when he came out 3 games in and destroyed his hamstring, ruptured his hamstring again, and he's out for a while now. It may be half the season, the rest of the season, we don't know yet. I was thinking, okay, there's a lesson in that for us. And I've seen this happen time and time again with other athletes. And we spoke about it last week a little bit. We're graced to be not athletes, so we don't have limited time frames to prepare our bodies. We don't have specific roles in a sport or team to play, so we can train more balanced. What's your take on this, Rad? Let's throw it over to you first before we get the ducks nuts from Phil as well.
Well, the writing's on the wall. I mean, if you look at the way that teams that are killing it and athletes that are killing it are doing it, it is because they're doing what we're talking about here. So yeah, I think it's I guess it's a older way of approaching training. I mean, people still have this idea that you can't be really strong if you're flexible. That it's kind of one or the other, and I don't really agree with it.
I believe the biggest problem in this, before I let Phil dive in, is that they lack an efficiency model. So there's this notion that if you're training for strength, there's no time to train for flexibility.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Look, a lot of people train. A lot of people believe that. It's very hard. Because
we did for years.
Yeah,
for decades.
Absolutely. It pulls you away from your strength training, and you can't train optimally for strength if you're training flexibility at the same time. That's the notion, so people just neglect true flexibility training. Like, there's a warm-up, they limber up, but they don't. I mean, you've worked with professional athletes on the AFL. How much proper flexibility training do you see them do?
Yeah, I wasn't around too much for the training sessions where they'll be working on that, so I can't totally comment on whether or not they incorporate flexibility. But I think just it's really important to understand with sports, like, it is so much about that specificity that we've talked about, and that's why it is so hard being an athlete. And for NRL, like, it's basically it comes down to how much power can you produce to run through a line of people who are trying to stop you, who are also equally, large people, and it kind of looks like, the old unstoppable force and immovable object a lot of the time, where it's just, people running each other. So I guess they're always looking to get that edge with, extra levels of speed or extra levels of power, and you can see why they kind of can get a bit so
pigeonholed.
Pigeonholed into that. And the thing about with flexibility and speed, I'm all for flexibility. I think it's really important. But when you think about how tendons work, there is an element of it's beneficial for speed to have somewhat tighter structures, because tendons are amazing spring energy storage and release mechanisms. So when you are basically able to activate this tight spring, you do get a lot of speed, but then there's that playoff between if you then get pushed outside of your comfortable range of motion, then you're in trouble. And for a sport like NRL, where you can end up in all sorts of crazy positions when you're getting tackled, or when you're stepping around someone, I think you've got to play that find that balance, and it's a tricky
there's
one.
Definitely the philosophy or the literature sort of suggests that being stiff is better for strength or explosive power. But it's interesting because, and I have to say, guys, I'm not the type of person that's the be all and end all in the opinion on this matter. I haven't made a career of working with professional athletes, and there are a lot of strength coaches and trainers out there who have. But I have had the fortunate opportunity, and so has Rad, to speak with professional athletes who have tried it, doing it both ways. The people that come to mind is Anthony Minicello and Craig Wing, who spent a bit of time here at the gym, and
Kai
Green, the triathlete.
Kai Green?
No, Kai Hurst. Sorry, Kai Green's a professional bodybuilder. Kai Hurst, who was the very, very successful Ironman. Now, these guys all said 100% when they took some time off and spent some time on developing flexibility and mobility, their speed and performance went through the roof, and they were less injury prone. They were less, and I know it's only 3 examples, but our friend Keegan Smith says the same thing. He says that when he spent time developing Sonny Bill's flexibility, his performance went up. When he spent time focusing on flexibility for the Roosters, their performance went up. Now, I still know of many strength coaches who will disagree with that, who will say, that's not what the literature suggests. It's not what you want to do. You want to make them strong and tight, so the joint and capsules are tight, and less chance of exactly what you just said, Phil. So yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely a controversial topic, you know. I know for me now, squatting and deadlifting and doing all those things, I feel a lot better at it, doing it. You know, I've never, ever been able to deadlift much over 200 kilos without feeling something really vulnerable in my lower back after my spinal injury. You know, I could just feel this nerve feeling, even if it may not have hurt, but I could feel it there, and it always stopped me from going further, you know. And this year I was doing reps over 200 kilos without that feeling whatsoever. And the only thing that's really changed that would affect that is that, like, I don't think I'm stronger than I used to be, because I used to be able to squat 180 kilos. I couldn't do that now, you know. I used to be able to bench press 145 kilos. I couldn't do that now. But I'm more flexible. I'm way more flexible.
Well, I think that one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is that flexibility, the way that we're talking about it, we're not talking about just having elastic muscles and joints that'll go there. We're talking about having strength through your range of motion.
Yeah,
and so it's about what we believe is that you need to be as strong as you can be, but you need to also increase your range of motion as much as you can while still being able to produce strength through that range. And I've seen one of the best examples of how some of the more traditional ways of stretching don't produce that with one of our newest members, Yerim, who is a martial artist who has a level of flexibility that I've very rarely seen before, like an elite level of flexibility. Like, she can go into the middle splits and rotate her hips into the front splits without coming up and down.
Mental.
She, without even blinking, she pulls her leg up behind her and goes into the front splits on the wall with one leg up high and her hands on the ground. So this is like ultra flexible. But when I showed her how to do the active middle splits, she couldn't even come close to doing it, and it scared the hell out of her. With her groin about this high off the ground, where if you're listening to the podcast, I'm showing somebody that could do the full splits at 180 degrees, it'd be like them doing it at about 150 degrees, which you really should be able to do very easily if you can do 180 degree splits. And she was so scared of it. There was no strength there. There was no confidence to be able to hold her body. It was
no
like
stability.
Yeah, no stability, no structure. So, and this is my belief, but my belief and my firm belief is that if you have that level of flexibility without that level of strength, then it actually compromises your body.
100%. And I think that's where the philosophy comes from.
Yeah, and I think it's just to kind of draw out what usually happens with a hamstring tear is the reason you tear it is because it's a two-joint muscle where it's crossing the hip joint and the knee joint. So when you go into hip flexion, that's stretching it over the hip joint, and then when you go into knee extension, you're stretching over the knee joint as well. So it's often these two-joint muscles that are the common ones tearing when we do sort of like fast ballistic sort of movement. And so if you think about when you're driving if you look at Usain Bolt, he's just got such a beautiful example of how he really drives his knee forward and then like stretches out his foot to get that nice long stride. He covers like nearly 3 meters per stride because he's just got this amazing ability to leap forward like that.
I think at full flight it's a lot more than 3 meters.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah, I don't know.
You should Google it because I think it's closer to 10 meters.
Yeah, it's something crazy like
it's
that.
It's something that I just almost fell over.
After 3 meters, I was like,
oh my God, he covers that much ground each step.
Exactly. So to be able to do that, he needs to have pretty good ability to stretch that joint over two muscles, but then be strong enough that the thing that usually tears it is the inability to decelerate at the end range, because your body knows you don't want to jam your joints into end range. So the hamstring should be able to really powerfully eccentrically contract to slow down and to control the joint. And so what the kind of thinking is with the NordBoard is that you just like get this mad eccentric strength and just really build up that one aspect of it really like powerfully. But the thing is with eccentric training, like with the Nordic hamstring curl, it's been shown to produce muscle length by getting muscle fibers in series, but it doesn't actually change your available range, which is really interesting, because a lot of people are like, this is a key to flexibility. We just have to like load the heck out of it eccentrically. But unless you're actually pushing to end range and strengthening through end range, you're not going to get that like an increase in available range. So that's where it's so important to, like, I think it's a great idea to do Nordics to build up, that potential for more range, but then you've also got to train it. So and that's where bringing them to strength and flexibility together is just so key.
Yeah, beautiful, absolutely. And I think I think we're talking about here about athletes, and yes, our mission is to make everyone move like an athlete. But there's a really good lesson in here for everybody, and that is that you can bang the strength drum all you like, but you've got to start thinking about efficiency of your workout, because if you're not fitting these two pieces together, and if you're not doing it at a 1-to-1 ratio, or you might even need to be doing it at a 2-to-1 ratio if you're super stiff and not very flexible, or vice versa, then you got to start looking at how you're working out, how
you're training.
It makes you,
like, the reason why, the everyday person won't do it is it makes you resilient. Like, the last thing people want is to, get injuries at whatever age, and especially going into older age. So the more you expose your body to over time and the more positions you become strong in, then, the more resilient you are to, some type of injury that can really, screw up your life plans. So, like,
there's actually some pretty solid literature that came out of Argentina about 6 or 7 years ago that they were able to relate mobility and morbidity together. If you could do a sit squat test, they predicted that you were probably more likely to live much longer than the elderly people who couldn't do that. And that's because you become a lot more frail when you lose mobility and range of movement.
Yeah, and there's another one about motility where it's like getting up off the floor, how many points of contact you have and how long it takes you. And that's I think that's just such a good example of mobility and strength together to be able to stand up from the ground without, having to prop yourself up on multiple positions. And so, I think it's just those are kind of neat examples of how, this can work out.
To go beyond just the performance thing and the short-term risk of injury, there's certainly a good reason to stay mobile your whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, most it's funny because so many people come to Unity Gym and they say, I really want to get flexible. I'm strong already, but I don't want to lose my strength. And then as I'm training them and I ask them, what's going on, like what are the reasons why they're here and what their goals are. And when they say that to me, they say, I just can't get flexible. It doesn't matter what I do, I can't get flexible. And I say, well, have you ever tried stretching as much as you lift weights? And they go, well, no. And I say, well, why would you be flexible?
Yeah.
Why would you ever have that balance if you do it that way? And it comes back to what you say. It's about this efficiency model where, it took us so long to learn this ourselves, for so long. And it happened because I went the other way where I said, stuff this, I'm getting flexible at all costs. And I started focusing so hard on flexibility and I got flexible, but I didn't have that strength. And then together we brought it together into this program where eventually, it took a while for us to get to this point, but eventually where we had this 1-to-1 strength and stretching ratio. And now everybody gets strong and everybody gets flexible, and it's almost kind of like a moment,
Well, it is. It's massively, and the topic of today's discussion, which I'd like to try and steer this to now, which is the concept that if you are a high achiever, and we've got a great comment or question from someone in the Movement Mastermind who is obviously a high achiever, doing a lot of martial arts
online
training.
Coaching.
What's that?
They're in the online coaching.
Online coaching, sorry. Then you're going to hit a point at some point in your training life where you will just not be able to do the things you're asking of your body if you haven't achieved a good balance in strength and flexibility. We have a big motto printed on the wall: true strength cannot be achieved in the absence of mobility. And what that means for us is that you will not be able to demonstrate your strength outside of the perfect situation if you're not mobile, if you're not balanced. You might be able to bench press a lot of weight, or squat a lot of weight, or deadlift a lot of weight, but if you're taken outside of those modalities, outside of those perfect pathways, you can't demonstrate your strength. Whereas opposed to a gymnast who has a really good balance of strength and flexibility will be able to do a very nice stalder press, will be able to do a very nice handstand push-up, all sorts of different feats of strength, will be able to jump almost 3 meters, 2.5 meters in the air and do a triple back pike, and generate immense amounts of force in their legs, in their lower body. And when they in most cases that carries over to being able to do a heavy bench press or a heavy squat or something like that, you know. And so, yeah, we believe here at Unity Gym that true strength cannot be achieved in the absence of mobility. You cannot demonstrate your strength. And I learnt this in a very humbling way. I'll share a very quick story. In Santa Monica, I trained at Gold's Gym, and then, you know, as everyone does, you go to Muscle Beach and hang out. This was my first time in Santa Monica in California, and I wanted to go see Muscle Beach and the outdoor gym there in Venice, and what captivated me was I'm sitting there watching all these dudes pump iron, which I'd wanted to see for a long time. Anyone who grows up around gyms do. But then in the background, they've got this outdoor, on the sand, calisthenics setup. And this was the turning point for me to really wanting to start learning how to develop strength in different ways. The stuff that these guys were doing on the calisthenics rig out there was just phenomenal. It completely changed what I believed was strong, you know, because at that point I was real strong. I could bench press 145 kilos, I could squat 180 kilos, I could deadlift 220 kilos, you know. But then I went out and started to try and play on these rings, and I couldn't do one muscle up. I couldn't support my body weight. I couldn't do anything without feeling really vulnerable, you know. And first and foremost, I couldn't even hold the rings, the metal rings, without feeling immense pain in my wrists and things like that. And I was like, well, am I really strong if I can't demonstrate my strength outside of a bench press or anything like that? I felt really humbled. I was like, wow, I feel really weak. I don't feel strong anymore, you know? And that was when I thought, wow, I want to try and learn some strength that I could demonstrate. If someone said, okay, so what can you do? Are you strong? What can you do? Oh, well, get me a bench press and I'll show you. No, what can you do now?
Yeah.
You know, like what can you do right now? What can you do to show me how strong you are? I can't do anything. I can flex. You know, and that was a humbling experience, I thought. So what is
Well, James has said, James Duquoiset, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. He said, my goal is to work with the 18-minute flexibility routine, which I do 2 times daily as part of my morning routine and evening post-training workout or off-day rollout. Outside of my martial arts training, I'm also working with the foundation program. I'm looking towards some more loaded flexibility training, as at my age that seems to give the absolute best bang for your buck. Very true. I know I can't do it very often, but would you recommend the loaded flexibility course or the mobility masterclass as a means to increase functional end-range strength, mobility for martial arts training, and how would that scheduling work? I'm trying to connect some of the long-term dots that help drive and supplement without overtaxing myself. Absolutely the mobility masterclass, with hands down, would be the best bang for your buck for your martial arts training. And the way you would make it work, what you've got to understand is that you can do as little as 1 session a week on each of the movements that you want to improve at. So whatever it is, the front splits, the middle splits, the pancake, the back bridge, whatever you want to improve at. 1 of those sessions a week, when you do the session properly, is going to be enough to see improvements, massive improvements in that movement. As long as you do daily mobility, which is what the 18-minute stretching routine is. It's a daily mobility routine. So, yeah, absolutely, man. How does it look? You know, for martial arts, I'd probably be doing the middle splits and the pancake or the front splits routine once a week each. And, yeah.
I got one issue with what, is it James?
Yep.
James has said here, which is he seems very passionate about martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
I read a comment that he may have said to me or you or just generally to us. I think it was in response to something I said about all the different styles and methods that he's doing and the different katas and the different routines. It was in the, I think it was in the most recent post that I did last week on the Foundations program. He's doing a lot. Now, my opinion on that is that if you're doing that much and you're that passionate about martial arts, and if you're not spending a decent amount of time every day working on your flexibility and mobility, I think that's crazy.
I agree.
'Cause flexibility and
I'm
mobility
looking at it here.
is such an essential part of martial arts.
Yeah.
You are never going to achieve your true potential if you're not really dedicated to unlocking your range of motion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, it says right here, he's saying, in a nutshell, I train martial arts 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturdays, classes each session, approximately 1.5 hours long. I train Tang Soo, Sudo, Goju Ryo, and Okinawan Kabuto, which I'm pretty sure are all forms of karate. Then he's saying I also study Tai Chi and perform Yang 24 and Standard 48 form as well, which are both forms of Kung Fu, or they're both Tai Chi, the 24-step and 48-step form, and then as well as a compact 108 form. Man, that is a fuckload of different types of martial arts.
That's what I thought.
And you know what, man? Look, this is, funnily enough, this is one thing that I've got a lot of skin in the game on this because I did a lot of martial arts, so I can really comment on this one. Bruce Lee said, "I don't fear the man that did one kick, that did 1,000 kicks one time. I fear the man that did one kick 1,000 times." And I did study martial arts. I studied a couple of different martial arts, but where the majority of my time was spent for a decade was in Kung Fu. And my experience is that the people that learn everything like that never really get good at any of it. And what I would be doing if I was you, man, I would be drilling down on what you really want to learn. And when I asked my teacher this, who was an exceptional martial artist, out of all of the martial artists I ever worked with, he was by far the best. And I worked with a lot of really good ones. And I said to him, how much time do I spend on the thing that I'm trying to learn, and how much time do I spend on the things that I've already learned? And he said, if you had an hour to train, I'd spend about 50 minutes on the one thing that you're trying to learn until you grade it, until you pass it, until you go, okay, well, that's done. I've learnt that and I've, to a degree, mastered it, And then you spend 10 minutes on the things that you've already learned. So if you're trying to learn all of those things, yeah, I think you're trying to do a little bit too much at once. And what Yanni said is absolutely true. If there's this is another thing that came from my teacher, which I can say with my hand on my heart now. The things that are going to affect all martial arts positively is increased strength and increased flexibility and increased fitness. Those are the three things. Right. And when I used to ask my teacher, what are the things that you need to work on the most? What happens when you go away from training? He says strength, flexibility, and fitness. He said if you lose that, that'll take you years to get back. Yeah. But if you stay strong, fit, and flexible, you could not train martial arts for 5 years and you could come back and train hard for 3 months and you'll be exactly where you left off. Yeah. But if you weren't strong, flexible, and fit, that is going to take you some real time to get back. Yeah. So, yeah, man, that's my advice.
Yeah, look. Do you want to say something?
No, just 2.44 meters is Usain Bolt's.
We should probably clear that up. I massively exaggerated before. I think I got feet. I got feet and meters mixed up.
Yeah, which is still insane. 8 foot stride is like.
Yeah, I mean, I get about a 7'8" in my stride. So
yeah. Now I want to just end on this with James's comment there. I haven't kicked a punching bag in about a decade, and recently I decided to just start doing a little bit more boxing as cardio, and I went back and did a bit of kickboxing the other day out the back of the gym. We got a couple of heavy bags strung up, and other than the fact that I've completely lost all conditioning in my shins and toes and feet because I clipped a rope and almost broke 3 of my toes, I was absolutely shocked at how powerfully and fast and high I could still put a high kick on the heavy bag. Without doing anything at all, except flexibility and strength. There is so much weight to that argument, James. And I get why it's very appealing to broaden what you're doing and also not be a generalist and really learn and taste and sample all these different methods and philosophies, which is going to really keep that neural plasticity going in your brain and keep you challenged. But it depends. I think it falls down into what do you want to be able to do. And if you want to be able to fight Like if you want to be able to say, okay, I could kick the crap out of someone if I needed to, then doing that much is going to really not do that for you. I've seen so many great martial artists who got their ass kicked in a street fight because they just didn't know how to fight, you know. And I did boxing for 16 years and learnt 3 different punches, and you know, and that's all we did. We just sparred and learnt to get strong and fit.
You've got your own martial arts teachers, and they're teaching you, and you know, like follow their lessons, but specific to what you're asking us, yeah, man, find the time to do this flexibility, because if you always treat it as something that you don't have the time for, there is no amount of martial arts training that you'll do that's going to allow you to kick high if you're not flexible.
Looking at that schedule, there's just no amount of hours in the day that are going to allow you to get flexible.
Some of the people that come to us who are the most desperate to get flexible are the people that have done martial arts for the longest.
Yeah.
Martial arts training at a lot of schools, not all of them, but at the majority of schools, does not deliver good results in flexibility. It just doesn't. Yeah. So, yeah, give this a try, man. See how you go.
I just want my quick 2 cents on that as just someone who has gone from like total specificity of playing Ultimate Frisbee for 11 years, and now I'm doing like a wide variety of like surfing, beach volleyball, triathlon sports, weight training, and just a whole lot of different stuff at the same time. Like if you just find a lot of joy in just like spending your time like exploring this stuff, like the most important thing is you love what you do with your exercise. And so I think it's just really important for the people out there who are like, no, I have to choose something. Like you don't. If you love just the experience and turning up and like that exposure to lots of stuff, like embrace that and go with it. But yeah, certainly if you're looking for performance advice,
and that's what I said just before. That's what I mean. Like there is 2 reasons why someone does martial arts or boxing or something. They do it for self-defense, or they do it for the love of it. And that's totally fine. You may be the type of person that you have you always be like, no, I'm not going to, I don't want to fight someone.
And if you're not sure about it, go back to the first 8 episodes of the podcast where Yanni will run you through figuring out what you
want to do. What's your why? You know, that's really important here. And we are not judging anybody who wants to do the latter. You know, that wants to just do a bit of everything and sample it and feel like they're constantly learning and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what your passion is. 100%.
Love it.
All right.
Good work, guys.
Have a great day, guys. We'll see you tomorrow for more action.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that far.
It's the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.